tell you a story. However, to tell the story, I need to turn the clocks back a bit, say about 9 years. We're going back to 2009, when I was a 5th grader. Way back in 5th grade, when Boom Boom Pow by the Black Eyed Peas was the #1 single of the year, I attended St. Bernard Catholic Grade School in Pittsburgh. St. Bernard was a very small K-8 school, and I graduated from the school in a class of 18, 13 of which were boys. Thinking back to 5th grade, my young self was jumping at every opportunity I had to be creative. I would always be making up stories and then drawing these stories and their characters whenever I got the chance, especially with anything that had to do with math, English, history, or science. I wished I could somehow incorporate my ideas into something that had to do with school. Thankfully for me, 5th grade was my lucky break. That year, I had a teacher named Mrs. Merwick. She was a middle-aged woman who always had the tenacity for being a fun yet demanding teacher, always proud of her students and pushing us to do more. That year in English, she assigned us our very first research paper. It was never something I, as a student, had ever tackled before, and I thought of it as a scary, overbearing, and impossible project. The topics for our papers were endangered animals, and for my project, I chose the gray whale. Since this was our first ever research paper, Mrs. Merwick had us use every research form available for our projects. First, we were given an outline of topics we needed to cover. Then, we had to gather our sources. After that, we wrote outlines, filled out note cards, wrote several drafts, and did many other activities in class to help us get a better sense of how to write this paper. All while this was transpiring, my mind was turning over the idea of this research paper, imagining what I could possibly do to make this creative, fun, and most importantly, my own distinct paper. This creativity that I had been harboring finally had a concrete outlet, and I was determined to express it. Well, after a few months, it was finally time to turn in this paper. It was May 22nd to be exact, and my confidence in this paper was unshakable. I had put so much work into this project. On the front page, I made the cover out of construction paper, which depicts a hand reaching out to touch a whale. The paper was then titled, "Your hand reaches out, trembling with excitement as you touch the smooth head of a gray whale," which is probably a contender for most extra thing I have ever done. Still, at the time, I was so very proud of this paper, and on the next page, I even drew these whales. 9 years later, I cannot remember if we had to do a drawing, but I do remember how much I enjoyed making it. As for the paper itself, it is everything you could possibly ever need to know about gray whales. Behavior, endangerment, feeding, habitat, and so on. So, I turned it in. After a few weeks, we got our grade reports back, and to my surprise, I got a 149.5 out of 135. My 11-year-old self lost their mind. I couldn't believe what had happened. I read Mrs. Merwick's report where she said things such as, "An 8th grader could not have written a paper any better than this," and "Wow, you really got my attention fast." This paper was also special to me because I remember I got a higher grade than this one person in my class. This person happened to be Dea before she was Dea, who is a singer if you didn't know. And now I get to ironically and proudly say that I got a higher grade on a 5th grade research paper than someone who will most likely be more famous than I will ever be. Take that, Dea. Okay, getting back on topic. What Mrs. Merwick told me about this paper really stuck with me. This was the first time I had, in my opinion, truly connected with an audience. It gave me the idea that people may really want to see what I could achieve or what I had made, and the grade that Mrs. Merwick gave me remained in my mind for a long time. Whenever I had a research paper due in middle school or high school, I would always think about this paper, hoping to once again feel that achievement and accomplishment. Not only did this grade affect my motivation for school, but also in my personal life. I still would draw and share things that I made with people all the way up through high school, and I often entertained grandiose ideas with friends of something bigger than ourselves that we could create and share with people. And that's how we get to this video, here in the present day. In February, I uploaded the first video that I myself worked on for the YouTube channel that my friend and I run. And reflecting upon it, I can see the inspiration for that video all these years ago back in 5th grade. Without Mrs. Merwick and her research paper to drive me to create something I was truly proud of, it is quite possible my creative drive would not be what it is today without that basic foundation. Every one of us has these influential moments in our lives. Whether it be a research paper, a sports game, a teacher, or something completely different, each one of us has something or someone that has impacted us, especially in our early childhood. These moments may reflect who we are and what we want to become, and sometimes just a little trip down memory lane can help us remember how to become who we aspire to be.